Okay, welcome everyone. Thanks very much for joining us, and thanks for being part of our tech community. My name is Ricky Simpson, and I'm the Product Marketing Manager for Microsoft Defender for Identity, and I will be your host and your speaker for today. So just a few reminders before we start. If you've got any issues viewing the stream at any time during the presentation, and if you're using the web browser of Teams, then just refresh your browser to try and connect back in. If you're using the desktop app, please exit and rejoin. Please note that this webinar is being recorded and will be shared publicly. And we will post the recordings in our community at aka.ms/security webinars. Closed captions in several languages is available during the live broadcast. You can enable them by clicking on the CC button located at the lower right corner of your screen. And obviously, feel free to ask any questions at any time in the live Q&A window by clicking on the Ask a Question button. Be aware that any questions that you post will be publicly visible. However, if you prefer, you can post your question anonymously by checking the box right below where you enter it. Now, we often get many questions on these webinars, and we will do our best to respond to all of them in real time. In the event that the answer was not provided, or if you have any additional questions after this event is finished, please don't hesitate to raise them on our Defender for Identity discussion forum, and you can go there at aka.ms/MDI community. And if you're listening to this after the live broadcast as a recording, it's also a great place for you to go and ask questions if you have one that wasn't addressed during the webinar. We'd also love to hear your feedback on how we can improve these webinars. You can do that at aka.ms/security webinar feedback. I would also like to invite you to join our public community by visiting aka.ms/security community. That's the best way to ensure you don't miss any future webinars or major announcements. On our community, you can speak directly to our engineering teams that create our security products. You'll be able to influence our product designs and get early access to changes by doing things like participating in private previews at aka.ms/security PRP. You can request features, give feedback, review our product roadmaps, register for events, or join webinars like these. We believe that the best way to improve our products is by removing any barriers between you and the people that create them. So we very much hope that you will join us. So in today's session, I will be guiding you through the new Defender for Identity settings and administration experiences that we're making available in Microsoft 365 Defender portal. We also have some folks from the product group here handling the Q&A as it comes in. Please bear with us when you're submitting your questions, and just a heads up that we will be prioritizing answering any questions relating to the content that we're covering on today's webinar, and we will do our best to answer anything else that comes up, but be conscious that we'll be prioritizing anything that will be relating to the content that we're going to be covering. Okay, so like I said, my name is Ricky Simpson, the Product Market Manager for Defender for Identity. And today we're talking around the admin experiences and settings experiences that were achieved through the Microsoft Defender for Identity portal up until now, and how we're going to implement those within Microsoft 365 Defender. So this slide here gives you a snapshot of how the product has kind of progressed from having a standalone console by itself into then working with Azure Active Directory Identity Protection and MCAS to give that kind of hybrid experience within the MCAS console, and the kind of best way to experience Defender for Identity, which is part of Microsoft 365 Defender. And just to iterate a point here, that the feature experiences and features and bells and whistles that we're going to be developing for Defender for Identity will be accessible from Microsoft 365 Defender. So that's where you're going to see the best of Defender for Identity moving forward. So I just want to point out at the start. And obviously there's been a collection of different security products in different portals as our capabilities and and as our expertise has grown. And one of the big parts of making this the best experience possible for our customers is to give it a single home. So you will see that Microsoft Defender for Endpoint and Microsoft Defender for Office 365 are already in the entirely within the Microsoft 365 Defender portal. And what we're going to be covering today is where Defender for Identity fits in there, and where we can start tying up those experiences, which is going to be underpinned by the coordinated prevention, your automatic remediation, and your advanced hunting capabilities, and where that extends to the rest of the combined converged features that Microsoft 365 Defender offers. So if you just allow me to share my web browser, and the rest of today is going to be demonstrations. So if you just give me 2 seconds. There we are. Okay, so within the Microsoft 365 Defender homepage, and just it's worth iterating that everything that we're going to see today is going to be landing in public preview in the coming weeks, with the exception of one feature, which I will highlight when I talk about it. But this is where our settings page concentration is going to be. So if you scroll down to settings, you can see that we have an identities area within settings here. And if you launch that, you will see that all of the settings that might seem familiar to you from working in the Defender for Identity portal are going to be available. And it's not just a lift and shift that we've done here. For the most part, we've kept all the core functionality that's been available, but we have taken the opportunity to improve and to add features that customers have been asking for, and that's what we'll be sure to highlight today as well. So just to start up at the top page here within sensors, this sensor page now contains combined health issues. So if we click on a particular sensor, we can see that this one here, for example, is not healthy. And we can click on that and it will fly in from the right-hand side, and we can see any specific health issues that are pertaining to that individual sensor at any time. And we'll also get an at-a-glance view about whether the service is running, or whether it's involved with a delay update process, and all the other information that we can get from that sensor up on the right-hand side. So as well as having individual sensor health issues consolidated into that view, we also have global health issues. So any issues that are going to be infecting all of the sensors, or perhaps the entire Defender for Identity service, are going to be represented within that global health issues level there. So as well as the health issues, we also have introduced the ability to have some advanced filters apply. So obviously this is a lab environment that I'm showing at the moment, and I only have 2 sensors. I would hazard a guess that most of the folks in this call have got more than 2 domain controllers that they're looking after, and you're going to have perhaps a much larger list here. We've also given the ability now to have advanced filters, and you can filter by any of the attributes that you can sort by within that view in order to find some of the sensors that you might be looking for specifically a lot quicker. So a nice little quality of life improvement that's been given there. If we move next to the directory services account, what we have here is what might look like a very similar experience from the Defender for Identity portal. The views and the attributes associated with these accounts have all been kind of presented within a single screen, so that comparisons can be done really easily. You can see at a glance what domain that particular account is responsible for, and whether or not it's a group managed service account. In the old experience, it might have required collapsing or expanding quite a lot of views before you could see that. It's been simplified a little bit more here, and again, the ability to filter for any particular attribute is possible at the top there. The VPN capability is almost identical, whether or not you enable the radius accounting and then the shared secret that has to be entered below. And where we start looking at the more improvements as opposed to just lifting and shifting is in the tagging area. So the entity tagging is probably what's seen the majority of the overhaul in terms of functionality here. So sensitive tags can now be assigned to users, devices, and groups, and we also see more information on the entity now, what domain it's part of, and also if it's a user, we can see the UPN and SAM name that we have applicable to that entity. And you'll see indeed that the tagging area has been split out into different kind of submenus for ease of tracking what particular task you're doing as well. So they haven't been stacked into the same screen as before. And we can go across the different sensitive tags by going to devices, users, and groups up at the top, and you'll see that the attributes that are shown changed depending on what entity type you're looking at any one time. The honey token tagging has also been split out to different users and devices as opposed to just having them all in the one view, again, just as a way of keeping those entities separate based on their type. And the Exchange servers tag has now been given its own area. And it's been given its own view because an Exchange server could be both sensitive and an Exchange server at any one time. So we wanted to respect the potential tagging asks of the community and break that out to a different area. When we do want to add new entities in, we can do it in a couple of ways. If we go back to the sensitivity tag here, we just hit tag users and it flies in from the side. And you'll notice as well, depending on which entity type we click on here, it will change the potential entities down the right-hand side here for which ones we can add in. And again, you can search before adding them in as well, which is a slightly different aesthetic experience based on before, where it was more of an autocomplete entry system that you had to do before. Okay, alert exclusions or what's next, and this is the feature that I was discussing at the start that is going to be in private preview for a little bit longer. So just to reiterate, everything else is going to land in public preview in the next couple of weeks, aside from the exclusion capabilities that I'm about to demonstrate here. So in terms of the exclusions, we can now set exclusions on a per detection rule basis. And for each detection, you can see at a glance what has been excluded. So if we pick on this suspected brute force attack here, little click and it will bring in the flying from the side and show us the excluded devices and potential IP addresses for this detection's sake. That there's none there. But again, it's improving that at a glance view, so you're not having to click through multiple screens to get the information that you're after. You'll also be able to see, based on the excluded entities, the potential excluded entities here, what can be excluded for that particular detection as well. So we can see here the suspected DC sync attack has the ability to do users, devices, and IP addresses. And again, if we want to add any exclusions, there's a couple of ways we can do it. We can do it with one click here, and you can add whichever kind of entity that you would like. Or if you do already have that flying from the right-hand side here, you can hit that excluded entities button, and you can add more entries in at that level there as well. One brand new feature is being able to globally exclude an entity. So that means that you can select a user, a domain, device, or IP range or address that will be excluded from all detections that MDI is capable of. So you can see that in this area here. And again, if you want to include anything there, sorry, it includes a poor choice of words there. If you want to select a user to exclude, then you would click in there, and you're presented with a very similar look and feel from what we've seen before with the other settings. And that was another main focus here, was to make the addition and addition experience across all of the different admin settings consistent and to give it a similar look and feel. So finally, we have the notification settings, and these allow you to configure the health issues notifications, in which case we can put in individual email addresses here. And this will show you anytime that there's issues to do with sensor health, like we covered earlier on at the start of the webinar. We also have alert notifications as well. And again, these look and feels for these experiences are very similar, where we can add in email addresses. We can, with one click, remove them from the list as well. As you can see, it's been broken out into individual screens here. Before, it was just a notifications pane where everything was listed in this main pane here. And again, you had to scroll sometimes depending on what had been entered into that screen already. So just breaking it out into its individual panes is an opportunity to make sure that things are kept a little bit more concise and relevant to what you're looking to change at any one time. Note that the syslog config is also in this area with its separate pane, and that can be enabled and set to log to any service endpoint that you want to nominate. So I'd also like to show you too that our native alerting experience. So this is something that we haven't done an individual webinar on yet, I don't think, but it is something that's actually gone GA already. So within the alerting experience within Microsoft 365 Defender, and that kind of gave the game away up at the top with that filter. But if you hit filter now and choose to select Microsoft Defender for Identity, you'll see that we now have our native alerting experience feeding directly into Microsoft 365 Defender. So before that, our alerts were making up what was happening within those live incidents, but the native alerting experience is now something that we can see here. And if we choose any of these Defender for Identity alerts, we have the ability to go in and have a look at the details. We can see down the right-hand side here, it'll include everything that you need to see in terms of affected entities. So we've got the source account and even the devices that are here. Down the right-hand side, we'll also see if the alert has been closed or if it needs to be marked as a true or a false alert. And we can also put on comments and history, as you would expect. And we can also then export that out to an Excel spreadsheet if we want. And you can see that gets done pretty rapidly. And we can also link this alert to an ongoing incident as well, if that's something that has to be done manually. If that is something that your SecOps analysts feel is required, you can link those in. If you then manage the alert, you'll have the ability to change the status of it. It'll be able to choose the assignment status of that as well as changing the severity and the classification as well. So you can do that for any particular alert, which is great. And one of the huge benefits of using this in Microsoft 365 Defender is that with one click, we can then break out into a device page, fly in from the side as well. And if that's being protected by Defender for Endpoint, it will give you a fantastic seamless investigation experience across the different kind of security domain products that we're using. And again, that saves you hopping about from different consoles. It presents everything in that single pane of glass, and is an incredible benefit for Microsoft 365 Defender as a whole. So that is all I wanted to share with you today. It was just a summary of what we're going to be placing into Microsoft 365 Defender. I suppose the other thing that's worth mentioning is that the onboarding experience is also going to be automated as well. And that's something that if you already have Defender for Identity running in your environment, it won't affect you. It's more for new customers. That experience is going to be made is going to be made a lot more simplistic. But this was just a brief rundown of what to expect when those features go public preview, and definitely also a call to action to start kind of test driving these features in their new home. Like I said, there have been real good advantages for making sure that you're using this functionality within Microsoft 365 Defender, especially when it starts integrating with the other products within that portal. The seamless experience that you'll have is definitely a huge advantage. So with that being said, let me go back to the deck that I had. Let me just get the final slide up. Bear with me. Okay, so that should be visible for everyone now. Okay, so our next Microsoft 365 focused webinar is going to be on Monday, July 12th, and it's going to be focused on the story behind eCentire, MDR, with Microsoft 365 Defender. And that's going to delve into how eCentire streamlines security for itself and its customers. And for details and registration, please visit us on aka.ms/security webinars, where you can also find out and register for all of the other upcoming webinars that we have, not just focused on Microsoft 365, but also focused on Azure security as well. So please take this opportunity to put in any questions that you may have. I think someone has been taking care of the answers based on the amount of new questions I see in the list. In case we do miss answering any of your questions, again, just to reiterate, please hop over to the Defender for Identity community, which you can find at aka.ms/MDI community. And you'll also get all of the other links that I've been referring to. If you go to the broadcast or the published questions, you'll see all of the other links that I've been that I published at the start of the webinar. So I'd like to close the webinar by thanking all of you for being part of our community and for joining us. As always, it's always great to see the amount of people that turn up for these webinars and interact with our experts. So I'm going to have a look at the Q&As for the next couple of minutes just before I close off the webinar. So I'll put myself on mute to address some of the questions. So again, thanks for your time, and we hope to see you next time. Thank you very much.